Greetings guys, Si here and welcome back to the channel. Today, super exciting, I'm about to sit down with Tom Hiscock from Titleist. We're going to talk through the new Pro V1, ProV1x balls for 2021. Really excited to find out a bit more about these golf balls, what are the changes they've made, and just to get some insight from somebody who knows the brand, who knows exactly what goes into making these golf balls. So let's go.
Yeah, so new Pro V1 and ProV1x, I think for us the most important thing is we'll obviously delve into the design and the construction of the golf balls, but the important thing is that the relationship between ProV1 and ProV1x hasn't changed from a flying, feel and spin perspective, and we'll go into that in a little bit more detail as we go through. But as you know, ProV1 was launched in 2000 initially, and it's fair to say that the R&D team in the States, in Ball Plant 3, where ProV1 and ProV1x are made, they are the most excited they've been since the launch of ProV1 in 2000.
Because that changed everything. ProV1 in 2000 changed absolutely everything, didn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. So we've got a completely rebuilt golf ball, essentially. So where we like to refer to golf ball design and construction almost a bit like baking a cake. So you have to get all the ingredients working in harmony so you get that perfect recipe. And if you change one thing, you have to change another. So it really is a real balancing act. You can't just stick a new cover on and say, oh, it's a new golf ball. If you stick a new cover on, you've got to change the casing layer, the core, and all those things. So I'll take you through the process. So typically it's a 2-year process when it comes to the start of the design and then bringing it to fruition and bringing the golf ball to market. So back in 2019, at the Hartford event on the PGA Tour, which is around about the time of the US Open, the players you can see on screen, you've got obviously JT in there as well, which is good after last night.
How good was that?
Oh, it was unreal. It was so good to see him shaping the ball so much, wasn't it? It was really impressive. So not long after the 2019 iteration of ProV1 and ProV1x have been on tour, these players, as well as many other of our staff players, were invited to a roundtable discussion with the R&D team and our PGA Tour representatives, and we were really just looking for feedback on the 2019 golf ball. And we were then going to use that feedback and put it into the building of the 2021 ProV1 and ProV1x. So the biggest takeaways from these guys was more greenside spin, softer feel and a higher flight. I think it's really interesting because typically when we talk to, a bit like yourself, Simon, I used to coach prior to this role, and when you talk to your clients and your members of the golf club, I'm sure you find this quite often, that a lot of golfers think they spin the golf ball too much, and a lot of golfers think they hit it too high. But actually, when you look at these comments from the best players in the world, and they all hit it very high and they all spin the golf ball a huge amount, but they still want height, they still want spin. And typically, as you know, when talking about spin, we're only talking about backspin, and with these golf balls especially, we're talking about backspin when you're playing into the target. So the golf balls are all designed to be low in spin off the tee. So essentially, every single golf ball we make is a distance golf ball. And then the biggest changes come when you get into the irons and the wedges, where you see those biggest differences from a spin perspective. And obviously, height is your friend, as you know. So the higher you hit it, the steeper the ball's going to come down into the green, and quicker it's going to stop, essentially. So I always think this is a really interesting slide. But like I said, we use this feedback to come up with a design brief for the 2021 golf balls.
I think you see a lot of people that they get the idea that they have to have roll. They have to, roll is what's going to give them distance. But as we all know, as soon as that ball lands, it's slowing down so much that actually you want a ball to land and stop near where it lands, so you can actually control your ball around the golf course and actually plot your way around.
Absolutely. When it comes to fitting, we fit from the green to the tee. And with the driver, for us being the least important club, because, like I said a minute ago, all the golf balls are designed to be distance balls off the tee and low in spin, so you're not going to see any gains with any of the golf balls over one or the other.
No.
But where you will see those biggest differences is with spin and into the target. So yeah, it's really, I guess, the best way of putting it, and it says it really nicely on the screen here. So ProV1 as well as ProV1x and AVX are premium golf balls. These golf balls are designed for golfers who prioritise performance above all else.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter what handicap you play off.
Nope.
It doesn't matter if you're left-handed or right-handed.
Nope.
It doesn't matter if you're a lady or a gent. It doesn't matter if you're 55, 65 or 25 in terms of age. So if you're looking to prioritise performance, looking to improve and get better, then the premium golf balls are the best for every single golfer out there.
Yeah.
So new ProV1, the greatest combination of speed, spin and feel in the game. So ProV1, as you know, is the golf ball which is designed to be the best for the majority of golfers. And obviously in that premium performance category, we have ProV1x and we have AVX. And I'll talk about those a little bit later in terms of what they do differently to ProV1. So when it comes to the construction, like I said to you a minute ago, Simon, it's been a complete rebuild. So from core to cover, the design has completely changed, the golf ball has completely changed. And I'll take you through the bullet points on the screen. So from an aerodynamic package or point of view, as you know, as soon as the golf ball leaves the club face, the aerodynamics and the dimples of the golf ball take over the flight. So it's such an important part of the golf ball. Now with ProV1, we've had a dimple change, which has gone from 352 to 388.
Okay, gone back up again. Okay.
Yeah, so we've got more dimples on the golf ball. We've got 8 different dimples within that dimple design. So
yeah, you can almost see it, can't you? Yeah.
Yeah. I'm glad you picked up on that. That's perfect. So, yeah, 8 different dimples within the dimple pattern. And there's 82.2% coverage of dimples on the golf ball. Now, what the dimple pattern is going to do is optimise the flight. It's going to make it more consistent. It's going to make it longer. But going back to the screen I showed you a minute ago with the feedback from the players wanted ProV1 and ProV1x to fly higher. So
more dimples.
So the dimple pattern on ProV1 and ProV1x, the dimples are shallower than that of the previous model. So the shallower dimples create less drag and more lift in the elevator ball flight, so you're going to hit higher peak height.
Yeah.
But really interestingly with this dimple pattern and with ProV1x, although it's a 2-year process from the start of the build to bring it to market, the development for these patterns started 8 years ago. So it started in 2012. So I think when we spoke to the R&D team, they were so excited about this part of the golf ball because it's been such a long process.
Yeah, they've finally got it right. They've got that bit of the recipe, like you say, you got that bit right, and then they can work on the rest.
Absolutely, and it's taken. In that time, they've tweaked and tested 90 different versions of the dimple pattern. So it's incredible, really. And like I said, the guys in the R&D department were so excited about this part of the golf ball, especially.
Cool.
So that's fantastic. Then we get on to the softer cover. So again, going back to the design brief, the golfers wanted a softer feel and more spin.
Yeah. So
we've increased the soft segment in the formulation of the cover system.
Okay.
By increasing the soft segment, we've enhanced the feel, so it's softer. We've increased spin with the irons and the wedges into the green. But as a byproduct, and really interestingly, the softer formulation is faster.
Okay.
And also it's more durable. And a really good analogy that the guys used in the R&D departments is if you imagine you have 2 materials, you have a softer material and a hard material.
Okay.
Imagine the softer material is a bungee cord.
Yeah.
You hit that with a wedge. That bungee cord is going to stretch and it's going to reform very quickly. Whereas if you hit a plank of wood, the harder material, with a wedge, it's going to spin, turn, it's going to shatter. So that softer material is going to make it more durable, which is really interesting. And then the high flex casing layer. So the casing layer, as you can see on the screen here, is the middle piece, which kind of pulls the core and the cover together.
Yeah.
and we've taken the casing layer that we use in one of our prototype golf balls, which is ProV1x Left Dash.
Yes.
And that's one of our... Yeah, perfect. So Left Dash is a very hard golf ball, and it's built for speed and distance.
Yeah.
With it being firmer, it has this high flex modular casing layer.
Mm-hmm.
So we've taken that casing layer and we've put it into new ProV1 and ProV1x.
Okay, interesting. Because Left Dash was something that I wanted to talk about today anyway, if possible, because it's something that I haven't had, personal experience with. But it's interesting. So you're saying that you've got the softer outer cover, so then you can put the harder mantle casing layer to combine it.
Absolutely perfect. Yeah, you've hit the nail on the head, Simon. Yeah. So, like I said earlier, with regards to that kind of baking analogy, it really is a balancing act, and with the feedback, we obviously wanted to make a softer feeling golf ball, but we didn't want to compromise. So therefore, we had to bring in that stiffer casing layer to balance out the feel of the golf ball. Interesting. So the casing layer is going to add speed. It's also going to increase lower long game spin. Mm-hmm. And then when we get into the core, so we've improved the process by which we make the core. Yeah. But we've lowered the compression of the core. So we now have a lower compression core, which is going to give you a softer feel. Mm-hmm.
Are we talking numbers on the core, on the compression of the core, or is that not relative? Because obviously compression is something that's kind of almost gone out of the kind of discussion, doesn't it, a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. So compression, like you say, is not something we talk about a huge amount.
Is that because there's more layers now? Do you think that compression is slightly different because the compression of the core is different to the compression of the overall performance of the ball? Because there's more layers now?
You have a core compression, then you have an overall compression of the golf ball.
Okay.
And for us, compression is only a measurement of softness.
Yeah, exactly.
So, as you know, typically a lot of people think compression is linked to club head speed. Yeah. And obviously, when you're talking about club head speed, you're only talking about one club in particular.
Exactly.
And as you know, within a round, even if you shoot 70, if you shoot 85 or you shoot 100, you're still only going to hit your driver maybe 8 to 12, 14 times. Yeah. So you're only going to be swinging it at your fastest a few times in a round.
Yeah, small percentage, exactly.
Absolutely. And when we measure compression, the ball is put into a chamber and it's pressed from both sides. Yeah. And obviously, with a golf ball, you only hit it from one side.
Yes.
So it's a really interesting topic, and there are other brands that talk about compression when selecting golf balls, but for us, it's not that important.
Yeah, exactly, and I think that hits the nail on the head. I think it's nice to to give everyone the answer why, because it was such a big thing in the kind of vernacular of golf ball discussion, but actually as time moves on, you move past these discussions when you learn more about other factors.
Yeah, absolutely, and golf ball construction, going back to what you were saying earlier about multi-layered golf balls. Mm-hmm. So before ProV1, you either bought a ball for distance or you bought a ball for spin, didn't you? Yeah. And now the ProV1 and multi-layered golf balls do everything. So off the tee, when you're using your longer clubs and you're swinging it faster than you would with your other golf clubs, and you're delivering the club without much loft.
Yes, yeah, much less deflective.
Yeah, quite a neutral delivery. You negate the cover system on a premium golf ball, and you're impacting or you're affecting, making an impression on the hard casing layer over the soft core, which gives you that low spin. And then when you're getting into your irons and your wedges, and the club head speed is slower, and you've got more loft, and the angle of attack is different, then you're making an impression on the softer cover over the firm casing layer, which gives you that high spin.
Yeah, exactly.
Good. Very interesting.
Okay, let's ProV1x then.
Yeah, ProV1x. So, again, sits in the premium category, so it's for the golfers that are prioritising performance above all else. Mm-hmm. But with it being a different construction and different design from a Dimple perspective and from a core perspective, from a compression perspective, the golf ball's going to offer different attributes. So fast, high flight, and spin when and where you want it.
Okay.
So for the golfer who is seeking a higher flight and more spin, the one thing you have to, or the one potential hurdle when it comes to ProV1x is that feel element.
Well, yeah, but again, that's very subjective, isn't it?
Absolutely, very personal, absolutely. And I think we probably will see a few more golfers this time around switching from maybe ProV1 to ProV1x because they're both softer. And we might also see some ProV1x golfers going back into ProV1 because they both spin more, they both fly higher, and they both feel softer. So it's going to be a really interesting to see what happens. So into the construction, you'll see fairly similar changes, but subtle differences between them. And obviously, with ProV1x being the higher flying golf ball, there's a different dimple pattern. And again, you look at the golf ball there, you can see the difference in the dimple
huge
pattern.
difference in the design. They look much less dimples in the ProV1x.
So this with ProV1x, we've moved from a 328 count to a 348 count. And if you think back to ProV1 a minute ago, which was 380. So we've got 40 dimples that are different within the golf balls. And it's interesting to note while we're talking about the dimple patterns, that every single golf ball we do, from true feel all the way up to our premium golf balls, every ball we do has a different pattern. Which is really interesting. Not a lot of people know that. So,
because it's the dimple, like you say, it's that whole recipe, isn't it? It's designed not just as this is a great dimple pattern, we can stick anything inside it. It's about making every ball specific for its purpose.
Absolutely. So we've changed the dimple pattern on this one from 328 to 348. That means we've got 6 different dimples within the dimple design. 84.4% coverage of dimples on the golf ball. And again, that's going to make it slightly higher. The dimples are shallower than that of the previous ProV1x. More consistent, more optimal flight. And when we're talking about ball flight, the question we get quite often is about wind. And what happens? Well, ProV1x flies very high, so what happens when I play into the wind? And we say, well, you're not going to play 18 holes into the wind. You have to play holes downwind. You have to play wind off the left, wind off the right. And the golf ball has to perform in every single condition you can imagine. So
exactly.
When we're testing these products and the dimple patterns, all of those things are taken into consideration. So it's not something that goes unnoticed.
No, and also it needs to perform differently in the wind. If it cut through the wind, the into wind so much better, and it kept its flight better into wind, well, of course, then as soon as you go downwind, it's going to go 20-30 yards further, and that's just as unplayable, isn't it?
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's really interesting, and as soon as you start explaining that, people go, oh yeah, that's very true, actually.
I get it.
Perfect.
So is the cover slightly harder on ProV1x than on ProV1?
Yeah, very slightly harder, and that's going to add to the overall compression of the golf ball. I didn't actually mention the compression of ProV1, but ProV1 is 92.
Okay.
From a compression standpoint, overall, ProV1x is 103. So there's 11 compression points different, and you will notice that. But with the new softer cover that we're going on to now, which is similar to that of ProV1 in terms of how we've gone about it, again, we've increased that softer segment within the formulation. That's increased spin into and around the greens. And like I said earlier, as a byproduct, it's made it faster and more durable. So really, really interesting. I mean, whenever we bring out a new product, durability is always a question we get asked. So it's great to give the customer an answer with regards to that.
So in terms of thickness of cover, while we're kind of on that, I know that in the last iteration of ProV1, ProV1x, you brought the cover size down by, I think it was 11% or something. But equally, having played it for a couple of years, it was as durable as the previous model before that. Are we kind of similar levels of thickness to the last model?
Yeah, so cover thickness is the same as previous.
Cool. Okay.
But just change that formulation. Yeah.
Excellent.
And then when it comes to that casing layer, again, we've taken the casing layer from Left Dash.
Yeah.
And this has been really interesting. We've had some really good feedback from the tour. So Left Dash is renowned as being one of the faster golf balls on tour. But we're now getting reports that the 2021 ProV1x is as fast.
Interesting. Okay.
So that's really fascinating. And again, that's really going to help because it's faster, but it also spins more, which is obviously a massive
that's a
bonus.
win, isn't it? Yeah, definitely. And then two cores.
So when we get into the core, yeah, you're dead right. So we've got the dual core of ProV1x. So we've lowered the inner core, which you can see on the screen, the red piece. We've improved the process by which we make the inner core, but the compression of the inner core remains the same as 2019.
Okay.
But we've lowered the compression of the outer core.
Okay.
So to give that golfer a softer feel, we've lowered the compression of the outer core. So going back to the baking of the cake analogy, we've lowered the compression of the core, we've added the softer cover, and then we've introduced the hard casing layer. So that banting act, the overall compression of both golf balls are the same as they were in 2019. But because of the introduction of the softer components in the core and the cover, you will, as a golfer, you will feel a softer feel with ProV1 and ProV1x.
I think sort of, from my initial takeaway of this explanation, that casing layer, and obviously the dimple pattern is what the R&D guys are super excited about, but I think from a golfer's standpoint, that casing layer makes a huge difference to kind of that to be the stable thing that's in both products as a new entity is super exciting, because like I said, Left Dash was something that I kind of wanted to talk about a little bit, but I can see now that you've used that, like you say, prototype ball, and what it gave you, and they've added that into the recipe for both of these balls. It's really interesting.
Yeah, it is. And so essentially, the difference between the casing layer that we used previously and this, the high flex modular casing layer, we've basically increased the acid content in the formulation, which has made it stiffer and faster. So yeah, so the stiffness is going to balance out the feel of the golf ball, but then it also makes it faster, and combined with the other pieces of the golf ball, it's like I say, it's a really exciting piece of the golf ball. Absolutely. This is just a summary of the new ProV1 and ProV1x against prior generation. So more spin with the irons and the wedges and green side, softer feel, and a higher fly with both golf balls. But like I said at the start, the important thing is, from a flight, feel, and spin perspective, they still maintain the same relationship.
Yes. Yeah.
So ProV1x is the higher flying, higher spinning, firmer golf ball of the two. Yeah. And they're both available in yellow.
Exactly. Most importantly for me, because I play them in yellow.
Do you? Yeah. Funnily enough, I just gave them a golf bag yesterday and I put some yellow in there. So, right. So this is a really nice display here, Simon. You can see. Just move our heads a minute. So it really just gives you an idea of what the golf balls do. And going back to what I said at the very start of the conversation, if as a golfer you're prioritising performance above all else, then one of these golf balls will be the best for you. Yeah. So regardless of age, gender, ability, club head speed, one of these will be the best golf ball for you if you're prioritising performance. So I'll start with the golf balls on the right hand side. So ProV1 sits in the middle. Yeah. And unless a golfer has had some golf ball education or been to a golf ball fitting, most people will go into a pro shop and just pick ProV1 off the shelf. But like I said, ProV1, it is our flagship golf ball, but we have the other golf balls in the range because they offer something different. It doesn't mean they're better or they're worse, but they just offer different characteristics. So ProV1 in the middle is designed for the mid penetrating ball flight, optimal flight, and it provides fantastic spin and a very soft feel. And then if you look at AVX, and hopefully it's clear enough for you on the screen there, Simon.
Yeah, I can see it fine.
I know you've seen it in the flesh anyway, but the dimple pattern is completely different.
Yeah, you can see it.
The dimples are a lot deeper, and the deeper dimples create more drag and less lift, and they pull the flight down. So AVX will fly lower than ProV1. It spins less, and it feels softer.
Mm.
And then when you jump up to the other end of the table, we've got ProV1x. So ProV1x, as I've already mentioned, with the new golf balls, flies higher, spins more, and feels but firmer than ProV1. And then we've got Left Dash. So Left Dash has been on tour since 2018, and like I said, it was a prototype golf ball on tour, and primarily built for speed and distance. And it's a very niche golf ball. It's not a golf ball that's going to be readily available on the shelf, but we kind of recommend this as a bit of a fitting tool.
Yeah.
So in terms of what it does, it's got a similar flight profile to ProV1x. So high in flight, it's firmer than ProV1x, and it spins less. So from a spin point of view, it sits between ProV1 and AVX.
Okay.
So I know you mentioned earlier, Simon, it could potentially be a golf ball that might be suitable for your right-handed swing. Because I know you said you hit it quite low, but create loads of spin.
Yeah. I would say my right-handed game is definitely high spinning. Always has been. And it was always that, it doesn't matter what you did with shafts, didn't matter what you did with lofts, it was always in, at the top ends of 2,000, 3,000 spin with driver. And then again, that feeds all the way down the bag with mid irons and wedges.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and I mean, going back to what we were saying earlier, all of these golf balls, as well as our preferred performance golf balls, will spin relatively similarly off the tee.
Yeah.
But you will see a difference in ball flight down to the dimple pattern.
Yeah.
But then when you get into your irons, that's when you'll start seeing those differences from a spin perspective.
It's just again, it'd be an interesting product for maybe lower handicap, for maybe higher swing speed players. That Left Dash is something that needs to be put into the mix for them. Like you say, if it's a tool that's available for fitting, when we're using launch monitors and stuff, you can very quickly almost rule it out as well as rule it in. And I think that sometimes that's a good part of the process, because it's easy to look at this slide and get confused where you sit, but very quickly, if you hit these balls on a launch monitor, you can rule them out. And actually, where you say that there's 4 balls and they're all fairly similar in terms of the overall outcome. Certainly, when you go at the top end with driver, it would be interesting, for people to hit them and actually rule them out and say, actually, I know ProV1x may seem like it's what I want to use. When I actually put it on a launch monitor, it doesn't do what I need it to do.
Yeah, the fitting process is really interesting. Like you said, I think for anybody who is really interested in this, and it is obviously for us being a golf ball company is extremely important. And, the golf ball is the one piece of equipment you use on every shot, so it's potentially more important than your clubs. And we feel we could change somebody's game more so with a golf ball than a new driver or a new set of irons. So it's just finding the right golf ball for your game. And I think whenever we're fitting, we start from 50 yards, and then, like I said, we work our way back to the driver.
Yeah.
And we're looking at spin, we're looking at peak height, we're looking at descent angle, we're looking to give the golfer the most amount of control possible. But also, it's really important that we tie in and we align your preferences as a golfer.
Exactly.
If I fit you, Simon, and you say, this is great, Tom, looking at the numbers, ProV1x is great, but actually,
I don't
really like the feel of it.
You don't like the sound of it, exactly.
Don't like the sound of it, don't like the feel of it. Okay, that's fine. Then let's have a look at the other golf ball and compare the numbers and see if they're going to be enough for you. And if they are,
it extends that discussion that you were just saying about the recipe, isn't it? Because not only is it the recipe of the golf ball, you add the golfer in there as well, and you've got to marry up all those balance points to make sure that everyone's happy. And at the end of the day, it's the golfer that's got to stand there and hit the ball. That's the bottom line to all of this. They've got to stand there with confidence and hit the golf ball. And if they're not confident in what they're about to hear or feel off a wedge or a chip shot, that's going to impact what they actually do.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've had conversations, I'm sure you have, with clients, and I can remember one in particular, and he said, I should probably be playing ProV1, but actually I love the red number of ProV1x, so I play ProV1x.
There you go.
And this was a guy and this was a guy who's played on tour. You think, well, all these little things that you have to kind of take into consideration, don't you? So
yeah, definitely.
Yeah, it's important.
Yeah, because confidence is the critical factor in all of this. Because if you have the right golf ball but you don't stand over it with confidence, it's going to affect what actually ends up happening.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Cool.
Yeah. No, so that's pretty much it, really, Simon.
Excellent.
That covers most of it. I mean,
yeah, definitely.
Hopefully, this will be really useful for your clients and your customers and your members.
Yeah, it's fascinating just to get the explanation about what the ball is. From someone that knows the ball inside out. I think it's super interesting. We know that the Pro V1 family, as it were, and you include AVX in that now, because there was Pro V1 and then it's kind of Pro V1x and AVX have kind of stretched either side of Pro V1, kind of for preferences and to fit more players. But yeah, I think that hopefully from this you get that education side of things where people know actually they do put a lot of thought into these golf balls. It isn't just let's stick a new cardboard box on the outside of it and change the graphics on the ball. I think one of the things that people don't necessarily know too much about in terms of these balls is actually the placement of the lettering that we can see on the screen now. So obviously that's all hand stamped, isn't it? On each ball is rotated physically by a person to stamp it on the seam, as it were.
Yeah, we do. I mean, it's really interesting when you talk about the kind of ball plants that we have. So we've got 3 in the States, we've got 1 in Thailand. They're all owned by Titleist. And, there are Titleist staff in every one of those factories, and we've got over 1,000 associates within the factories. We've got over 100 scientists in the R&D department.
Yeah.
We own every single process of the manufacturing. So from the core to the cover, to the dimple pattern, to the aerodynamics. From the testing point of view, we test all the golf balls on site. We even build the machines that build our golf balls. I haven't been with the company a huge amount of time, but I've found out so many things since I've started. It blows your mind. It's incredible. So I mean, the company's 86 years old now. We've been making golf balls for 86 years, and how it all started was a guy called Phil Young was out playing golf with some friends. He missed a 5-foot putt, and he was adamant that it was the golf ball, not him. So he was playing with a friend who was a dentist. They took the golf ball into the dentist lab. They cut the ball in half and they x-rayed it and found the core off centre. So his mission, being in the rubber industry, he decided he was going to make some golf balls that were going to be superior in quality and performance. So from day one, that has always been the mission, and it still continues to be the same way now.
Yeah, it's fascinating, isn't it? Absolutely fascinating. Brilliant. Brilliant. Thanks for your time, Tom. That was fascinating. I'm sure you've got more people queued up ready to go for the rest of the day.
Yeah, I have, absolutely. Well, what I'll do, Simon, I'll ping you my email address. So if yourself or any of your clients or customers, members have any questions, just reach out to me. This is what we're here for. So if anybody wants any help, just let us know.
Perfect. Yeah, excellent. Thanks for your time today.
You're welcome.
Well, there we go. Really interesting chat there with Tom, someone who knows the brand, who knows the process about what goes into making these new balls, how they've completely redesigned them from the inside out. And, you can see his excitement about the new golf ball. So I would highly recommend, if you can get to one of the Titleist ball fitting days that they do at golf clubs around the country, or if you can get to one of their fitting centres and get yourself a golf ball fitting, I highly recommend it. It's certainly something that I will look to be doing as soon as restrictions allow. But in the meantime, if you've got any questions about golf balls and golf ball fitting, stick them in the comments below or send us an email at pjlife365@gmail.com, and hopefully we can do a follow-up video again with Tom answering your questions. I think that'd be a really interesting way to go. He said he would be happy to do it. So yeah, fire those questions away in the comments, and we'll see you in the follow-up video. As always, thank you very much for watching this video. I hope you enjoy the content. If you do enjoy our content, maybe think about subscribing to the channel. Then you'll never miss another video of ours, and we'll see you down here on PJ Life 365 next time. Bye bye.